treadmill running, is it good? Does it have its place in a running program, or is it just a case of, hey, you got to get out on the road and just deal with the elements and get on them? Hey guys, Coach Seán here, and today we're going to be talking about treadmill running. So, is treadmill running, does it have its place in running, or are you just being lazy? Should you be outdoors just getting a run in and forget about the treadmill? Are you being like, it's a bit cold out there, it's a little bit hot out there, there's a little bit of rain, maybe I should run indoors? It's the exact same as running outdoors. Is it? I don't know. Actually, I do know. That's why I'm doing this. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about. So let's talk first about why you would use a treadmill, and is it the same as road running? So let's first tackle, why would you use a treadmill? So the first one would be conditions. And, I joked a little bit there about, it might be a little bit of rain, maybe you can't go out there. And look, I hold my hands up. There has been times where it's just like, it might rain. And I check the iPhone app and it's like, it says it's raining. So do I have to go out? I've talked before about, building those habits, getting the massage, going out for myself. And that leads to habits to get the warm-up in, get the running gear on, out the door, and make myself going out there on days that don't want to run. But, sometimes there's severe weather conditions where it's like, probably should not be running. So, if there's snow out there or anything like that, you're like, the run can get you a miss today. Or sometimes insane heat waves if it's pretty warm out there. And if you're not training for a specific event where heat plays a factor. So if you know you're going to be doing a marathon or whatever, a long run in the middle of the summer, and the heat's going to be pretty high, probably not the best thing to go out for a run. Probably the best thing is you need to go out for a run. You need to acclimatize yourself to that weather. However, like on a day I'm recording this, it's 25, 26 degrees outside here in Ireland, and that is very rare. So if you're training for the Dublin Virtual Marathon this year, do you have to go out in that heat? No, because come the end of October when you're doing a Dublin Virtual Marathon, you're not going to be, it's going to be nowhere near as warm as it is now. So you're not training for the heat. So you probably could go, you know what, maybe not today, or maybe I'll go into a treadmill run instead. If you feel like you've got a long run ahead and you're just going to absolutely suffer through the heat, whereas you might get a decent run out in the treadmill. So another reason that you may want to use a treadmill is the roads. Maybe wherever you're training, the time of day you're out there, you're on a main busy road, or the road you're on is a back arse country road and it's just the absolute shits that is like, I can't get out there and get, it's not safe to go for a run. You're going to be meeting cars all the time, and we stopping and starting again, sitting into a ditch. Here comes another tractor, I have to wait again before I get started. The roads themselves are just up and down. They're not safe. They're unstable, some of the roads, and it's like, you know what? Treadmill might be better there. Sometimes to control the session more, to control your pace, and we'll get more into that in a second, control your pace, to control the exact incline. I talked about a second ago, different country roads, stopping and starting. Obviously, you're not going to be on a treadmill and you got a tractor or a car coming at you 100 mile an hour. Not that you would have a tractor ever have it coming at you 100 mile an hour, but you get my point. There's not going to be a car coming at you at that pace. So you can make it more challenging, the treadmill, easily, obviously, just by upping the pace, upping the incline, and going from there. You're not worried about the terrain or how you're running. So it's also great if you've been injured and you're building yourself back up. Starting a treadmill, you just have to go 2-3 minutes without worrying about coming 2-3 minutes right back to the house. If you can't find the right loop around your area, depending on where you're living. So you just go out in the treadmill, a couple of minutes in the treadmill, or to the gym, a couple of minutes in the treadmill. Nice and easy, nice slow pace, able to work on your rhythm, able to work on making sure your form's good, you're leaning into it, your core is nice and tight and all the rest, and getting those running mechanics down. Improving your running mechanics is also a great one of your treadmill. So you're hitting a certain amount of steps per minute. So they say roughly 180 steps per minute. You can start working on that more on a treadmill. It's a lot easier to do than it is out on the roads as well. So, and the other thing, dogs. I have an issue where sometimes I'm running, not too much this year, but definitely last year, whatever way I was running last year, maybe it was lockdown, they were fed up, I don't know. But there was definitely a good couple of times where I was getting chased up the road by dogs. Yes, it adds an interval into that long run, but if you don't like dogs, not the best idea. That was the worst impression I've ever done. I wasn't meaning to do an impression there, but it came out real quick. Anyway, moving on. So with that said, I've talked about all the benefits of running on a treadmill. Is it the same as running on the road? No. First of all, running 5 minutes on a treadmill and running 5 minutes on a road, it's I don't care. You say time's a constant. They're getting into all that kind of physics stuff. Time is definitely slower on a treadmill than it is on the road. Don't care what you say, it definitely is. Like if I have to go for a long run on a treadmill, I will put a towel up over that treadmill. So I'm not looking at the time and I'm just, the music's on. I can't even listen to podcasts on a treadmill because they're not upbeat enough for me to keep on going. I'm trying to concentrate on the podcast. I struggle with runs, listening to podcasts, except on a long run I get away with it sometimes. But on a treadmill, I can't do it. I'm constantly thinking of something, and I put myself out the podcast. I'm like, I'm still on this damn treadmill. It's just an absolute nightmare doing that. So I just have that music on, boom, let's go. I know it might be cheating, but that's what I have to do. So, but not the real reason, because that is a real reason. It is a real reason in my view. But the other reason that treadmill running is not the same as running on the road, is apart from the terrain and different challenges that it brings. So if you just did treadmill running, and you go to do a marathon or a long distance run, whatever it is, and you've got all the hills and up and down, yes, you can train for it somewhat on an incline. Probably can't really train on a decline unless you put a couple of books in the back of the treadmill. You're going down that way. I'm not too sure I recommend that. The more expensive treadmills may have a decline option, but not to the extent of that that you might face in the road. So it's not really preparing for the elements of up and down, because you're not going to stay at a constant same speed throughout a long run as you would on a treadmill. But the other thing as well is wind resistance. So if you ever seen a Tom Cruise movie, Days of Thunder, where his main special move is he gets behind the car and he's able to, I don't know the technical term for it, but basically because the wind in the car in front, it conserves, I was going to say energy, but he's able to build up more speed in his car before he starts that quick overtake of the other car. So he gets the straight right behind it. I suppose a better example would be in cycling, talking about, is it drafting, where if you're in a triathlon or a cycling event, triathlons anyway I know do this, where you have to be like 3 bike lengths, like 22 feet behind the other person, and then if you move closer than that, you're like in that draft zone, and you have to now try to pass that bike, because otherwise you're just coasting behind that wind resistance. There's no wind resistance, there's nothing to push against you. So you've got like 15-20 seconds or something to try and pass that bike if you move in between those 3 bike lengths. So you've got that time to overtake. Otherwise you just got to drop back from there. But anyway, so that's the whole thing in a treadmill. Because you're not running into something, you're not running into that wind resistance, you're just running on the spot. So there's no actual resistance you're running against. So you should be able to run faster on a treadmill than you would on the road, pretty much. There's just no wind resistance there at all. So it's not the same. So if you do a 4 minute per kilometer pace in a treadmill, doesn't necessarily mean you're definitely able to do it on the road, because there's so many different elements at play there, especially that wind resistance. You probably don't notice as much on a calm day, but it's there. It's definitely there. I didn't do that well in physics, so I can't tell you any more specifically than if you were to run against the wind and you feel it against the wind. It's kind of like that. As you get faster, it's kind of like that. You're running along and you might hear a car come by, that boom, wind resistance. There's definitely going to be someone telling me that has nothing to do with wind resistance at all. But anyway, that's in terms of treadmills altogether. Should you bring treadmills into running? I still think yes, but don't use them too much. Don't use that tool too much. So try and get out on the road as much as you can, as long as it's safe to go out there. If you have horrible winters where you are, obviously that's not an issue, so you have to be on the treadmill. But at the same time, if you've got horrible winters and you're on a treadmill, by the time it gets closer to summer, you're probably back outside, the weather gets better, and you're probably not doing events in the winter anyway, because the conditions are just that bad. So that's okay to keep working and maintaining your fitness, because you're probably on an off season kind of there where you need to start building up again. Like for example, when I'm doing a Dublin Marathon after the end of October, I have no real goals until January again. When I slowly start building up, I know January can't be a great month either, but I might do a little bit more treadmill stuff in January, February, and then start building back up on the road again when it gets, the weather gets a little bit better. On days where it's just really, really crappy, getting that treadmill run in. So even now, as I'm building up towards double marathon this year, once a week I'm working on pace on the treadmill. I just find where I am, it's a lot easier to do that, where I'm working on my pace, building up, and just psychologically as well as my legs moving at a certain kilometer/hour pace. I'm like, it builds myself up to get out there. Obviously I still have to perform that on the road at different times, getting close to the marathon. I'll start performing more marathon pace runs out on the road, but for now, as I'm near the start of the training, as we talked about this, I'll start using the treadmill maybe once, twice a week, and then slowly build up from there. So I hope to answer your question on difference between treadmill running, road running, and whether you should be using treadmills or not. Once again, the answer will always be down to it depends. Treadmills, in my opinion, are not necessarily a bad thing. I do think some people give them a horrible rep. But if you have a specific goal when using that treadmill, then that's okay. If you're just sauntering along for the sake of sauntering along on the treadmill for 20 minutes, then doing something else, that's when we have the problem. But if you've got a specific goal for using it, it can be a great tool. Now that wasn't a hard video to get through now, was it? I hope you guys got some value out of the video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the Coach Seán channel, which is somewhere here. And hit that button, subscribe to the Coach Seán channel, leave a thumbs up. There should be a couple of other videos around here for you guys to check out. And that's all from me, from Coach Seán. Take care.